Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's December 22nd, 2020, and one of the things I want to do today is carry on a bit more about investing. And this is my goal today is to give you an idea about how much you have to invest every month, or you know, when if you start at age 20 or 25 or 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, and 60, and how much you'd have to have saved up by those points as well in order for that to grow just by compounded interest rate and achieve $1 million. We'll start off by looking at what in the United States what the average person has in their account, their savings account at age 62. And then what we'll do is we'll look at what's called the fire system, I guess I'll call it. So that's financial independence, retirement early, and we'll talk briefly about that and go online to go to a couple of screenshots that I saved from an online computer generated system to try and project just how well you would do with whatever savings plan, investment plan you actually have. Based on representations of what the market has done historically with bull markets, bear markets, pullbacks as well. So all of those things will be talked about. And then we'll also, at the end, go into some of the things that I think are important as far, not just about how much you're saving and investing, but we'll also cover, characteristics of millionaires, what sort of things are really good habits to adopt, and then we'll ultimately end up with some of the things you need to think about at various ages, things you need to get your be prepared to take care of, so that you're not losing out based on your age group as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So our current situation here in the United States is the median amount of savings in the United States is 221,450. And the mean number is $221,450. And when we say mean, what we're doing is doing an average. If we took 1,000,001 people to study, we would go ahead and take the 1,000,001, tabulate, sum up, add up all of the numbers together, and then divide by the 1,000,001, and that would give us the mean number. If we took 1,000,001 people and we looked at what the median is, it mean that 500,000 people would be below this median number, and 500,000 people would be above this median number. And so the median average savings in the United States at 62 is $2,000. So well over, I guess it's well over half of Americans at 62 years old have less than $5,000 in savings. And there's been such a big gap. The gap between the wealthy and the impoverished has been steadily growing. So that's one of my goals, is to try and provide people with information so that they can take some steps, hopefully early on in life, and those like me later on in life getting a bit more aggressive. So the FIRE stands for Financial Independence and Retire Early. This is based on a best-selling book in 1992, Your Money, Your Life, Vicki Robin, Joe Dominguez. And it's about people being young people, a movement with young people becoming very frugal, extreme savings, and investing. And there's young men and women who are 35 years old that are fully retired and living a good quality life because they really buckle down. Let's say somebody graduates from college with their degree, they pay off their student loans rapidly because they're taking 70% of their income every month when they get a good job, and they're just paying off their debt, getting an emergency fund, and then starting to stock away lots of money in their investments. They're really living way below their means. They're meeting their needs, but they're living below their means. And then by the time they're 35 or 38, they're able to retire. Some people at 40. Some people get started in their 40s or 50s and do this and are able to retire early. So this is a growing trend, just like the little house trends as well, tiny homes. So this is based on a Trinity study, and it's there's this 4% rule, which basically means what folks are doing is they're trying to see what it is, what's the amount that you can live your life and live a quality, healthy life based on how much money you live on. So, for example, let's say it costs $40,000 for a family to comfortably exist on, and they're saving all the rest of that money and investing it. So they're meeting all their needs, living below their means, and if they start socking away that money, then they can figure out, how to deal with this, how to calculate how successful they'll be. So that's what we're going to do. So the goal is to have investments worth at least 25 times their annual expenses. So if you're going to be pulling out 4% of your investment portfolio uh, every every year, and so you're in other words, you're getting $40,000 to live on, and this is inflation adjusted. So the computer system goes through and adjusts for inflation. It adjusts for trends in the market, whether there's a bear market for a few years, there's a depression, there's a bull markets, and so on. So it takes in the calculations we're going to do, it's going to take in over 100 possibilities for any given calculation. And that's the calc I'm using is firecalc.com. So you can look at it for, a 20-year period. So if you're older and you don't expect to live that long, you may not need that much money. But nowadays people are living much longer, so it's wise to go through this whole process. So you can determine what you have to do is see what your expenses are. You really have to get a good budget and see what is it you're actually spending. And I think it would be good to do this for a couple of years to get an average, or take the higher number, depending on what your living circumstances are. And these living circumstances have to be your projected living circumstances in the future as well. So whatever that total annual expenses are, you multiply it by 25. And that's equivalent to living on 4%, because 4 times 25 is 100%. So by withdrawing 4%, now you could do it at 3%, 4%, 5%. You could look at it many different ways and do the calculations. So an example, someone's spending $50,000 a year to live comfortably. They say, that's what I want to have with. They got to multiply that by 25. So in their investment account, their retirement account, they need to reach $1,250,000. On the other hand, if they only need $40,000 a year to live by, and use whatever number's right for you, you multiply that by 25, and that gives you $1 million in your investments. So let's move on. So this is firecalc.com, and on this page you can see just below the green banner up above, you can see start here, and we'll go to that spot in a moment. Other income and spending. So if you have to have other expenses, a mortgage to pay, if you have other incomes such as your Social Security or a pension, if you're not retired. So you can click on any of these tabs and modify what you're doing. But if you scroll down the page a little bit, you'll see start here and a little bit of an explanation here. But let's put in $40,000, which is 4% of the $1 million. So the portfolio, we're just giving it a $1 million investment. And we say, geez, we want to see how well we do over 50 years. So 50 years here, and we want to get 40,000 each year for 50 years, which is 4% of your invested amount. Now this, of course, will be, it depends on, with this Trinity study, they really not only did different percentages for different durations of life expectancy and withdrawals from the plan, but they also looked at how much of the portfolio was in bonds versus stocks. So they did 50% stocks, 50% bonds, 75% stocks, 25% bonds, and so on and so forth. So they did all those things. And year by year portfolio. Now this graph shows you 100 different possible possibilities. This top purple line way up here, well, that's a real outlier. So that shows you've got close to $20 million here that it could be after 50 years. But there's a significant percentage that are below this red line. So along the x-axis are the number of years down along the base. Along the y-axis is the amount that's in the account, and this is growing by compounded interest. And this is over withdrawn below the red line. So if we get down to the red line, then we've depleted the amount of investment funds and the principal from the account. So you can see there are some that are definitely, it looks like at about 22 years out that you start having some failures. Now again, this is just a computer analysis. So FireCalc looked at 100 possible 50-year periods in the available data, and based on this, 22 cycles, or 22% of the time, the system failed to achieve success at 50 years. But 78, almost 80% of the time, you were successful being able to live on that $1 million investment, drawing out $40,000 a year over that period. Now, it would behoove everyone besides this is to actually have an extra emergency fund. This did not take in Social Security payments either. So this is a calculator I think is really worthwhile. Here it shows that the highest value was $17,687, and the lowest and the average value, when they were all averaged out, it was $3,393,000 left in the account after 50 years. So this can give you an idea of how to retire early, or if you're retiring, if you just didn't start saving enough, and you think you may live just so long or whatever. This can give you some ballparks on, and these are typically just index funds that they're invested in. They aren't going into risky stocks as well. And there are many other calculations on as well, many other online calculators. I just picked FireCalc. It was the first one I found, but I see that there are many more. There are many communities that have blogs. They have probably YouTube channels on it as well. So I want to talk about some of the good habits and characteristics of those people who have been successful and have lived, who are prepared well for retirement. So one is they live below their means. In other words, they meet their needs, but then what they do is they pay themselves first. They invest first before they go out and do something like going to the movies or going out and getting the lattes, especially really early on in life. So they're really, most of these people are really gung-ho. They don't accrue a lot of debt. They create clear and set goals, 5-year plans, 10-year plans. They commit to managing their own financial planning. They really become educated, self-educated about these things. And they seek out resources and mentors to help them gain the knowledge. They know where their money goes. They create a budget to meet their goals. They pay themselves first. In other words, instead of when your paycheck comes, paying your bills, then going out and getting a couple of presents for people because it's the holidays. I'm saying that because this is the holiday now. They go ahead and first thing they're going to do, they know how much, whether it's 10%, 20%, 25%, that goes into their investment account, that automatically goes. A lot of the times they don't even get to see it because it's taken out at their workplace, and then they pay their bills, and then they decide, do I want to try and save a little more, or do I want to pay down some bills if they do have bills, or do I want to go out and buy the new shoes or the purse or whatever the heck it is. They're less responsive to peer pressure. They can see the benefits of financial independence, and they have a way of communicating with their friends. No, I'm really trying to sock some money away, pay down these bills, and get my investment portfolio up to date. So we can get together, but I just don't want to go out to dinner or go take that fancy vacation, those sorts of things. They understand financial independence is much more than superficial social status, especially when folks are young now with social media. It's you can get easily overwhelmed by seeing what the Joneses are doing, trying to keep up with the Joneses, and people look like they're so successful and having all this fun and have a beautiful car, beautiful home, so on and so forth. They're credit card wise. So either they pay off that credit card at the end of the month completely, or in some cases, the minute they get home from making a purchase on their credit card, they use their debit card and pay that credit card right off. That way, their credit score is improving all the time, and they're also making sure that they're not accruing more debt. They're organized, and like for us, one of the programs I use is Mint. It's an Intuit program. It's the same makers of TurboTax and all. It's a really good way of budgeting and seeing what your accounts have, what your saving, if you have a savings account, what your investment accounts, what your credit cards are, whatever it may be. It's a good way. Another program that I use all the time is Evernote. That's where I take notes all the time when I'm in the garden, when I'm making plans. I take pictures of receipts with it as well. So it's a really good way of getting organized and knowing where your money's going, what's going wrong, and so on. Focus on paying off all your debt. There are some really exceptions to this general guideline. I'll go over those in my own personal investment actions that I'm going through right now. I'll share what I'm doing, but as a general rule, avoid debt. Avoid debt at all costs. It's okay to use credit cards if you control yourself with using the credit cards. You don't need to get one of those the newest car. Meet your needs when you haven't had an established investment portfolio. That you really need to understand the importance of compounded interest rate and how rapidly that can grow and make you more financially independent in the future. So if you did get debt using either the avalanche or the snowball method, Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, these people and many others by now are talking about these things. So the avalanche method is, geez, I'm trying to think. I think either the name I may mix up the names when I describe these, but I think the avalanche method is, all right, you got several different loans. So when Thea and I got out of vet school and all and finished internships, residency, and me working there, which didn't make much money. One of the things we did when we had gainful employment was we had huge student loans. We had credit card loans. We had a home equity line of credit. We had a car loan. So we had a couple vehicle loans possibly at that time. And I can't think of all the other debts, but it was well over $200,000 that we had in debts. And so what we did was we just got crazy about it. I think we may have used the snowball method initially. So the snowball method is taking some of the smaller bills. It didn't matter what the interest rate was. It was just knocking those down. So if there was a bill that was like an $800 bill, we could knock that down pretty quickly and take the money that we would usually be spending for knocking that bill down and add it to another one. And I believe that's a snowball means, is not necessarily paying attention to the highest interest rate, but just trying to get some good feelings and feeling of self-confidence that I can pay off these debts. We can do this if we just keep steady at it, and you feel a sense of accomplishment when you start getting these debts paid off. The avalanche method, I believe that's the name of this one, is where you look at, geez, this is the highest interest rate. This one's really killing us. We're giving money to those bankers instead of to ourselves. So let's concentrate on that one. And it's a bigger payment, and it may be a 30-year one or a 15-year one, but really concentrate on the highest interest rate one and try and knock that one down first, then hit the next highest interest rate after that one's covered, and so on. I believe that's the avalanche as opposed to the snowball as well. It doesn't really matter. I mean, economically, it does make more sense to hit the higher interest rate one first, but do whatever feels right for you. Get those bills paid off. Get your debt eliminated, if at all possible. So anticipate your needs is an essential step. So like one of the things, like in my calendar, I'm keeping track of when the school taxes are coming, when the county taxes are coming, and you think of this, all your different bills when they come at different times. Be very organized as well. You don't want to have to pay any penalty fees or any extra interest rate for a late charge and all. Anticipate everything so that you don't have any penalties that you're having to deal with. Take advantage of any tax loopholes. So for example, if you're a high wage earner and you can reduce your taxes, then by all means take the traditional IRA or the 401k, where the company or the paycheck person company is going to go ahead and pay, take off tax, not pay taxes on a certain amount that gets automatically deposited in your 401k, 403b, or whatever it is, or into your IRA. So it's tax deferred savings in there, and then investment. So you're not paying taxes on it, and that lowers your tax rate. If there's any other special deductions as well. I think TurboTax and I can't tax cut, I think, is the other one, or some of the free places are probably pretty good if you don't have many, if you really haven't had a lot of you haven't had children yet, you haven't had other issues going on. A simplified form online probably works out pretty well with dealing with your taxes, but plan for it. Know ahead of time. Have all of your forms ready as well. Start investing early. The earlier you invest, the less amount of money you will have to invest yourself to achieve the same amount if you start investing later. And we'll go over that. Education is very important, and two of the forms of capital that I've always talked about here on our farm is experiential and intellectual capital. So the intellectual capital, most people have a computer or a smartphone. You can look up these different terms. You can look up competitive rates. You can look up information about companies to invest in. You can look up the differences between the different investment firms, whether it's Fidelity, Charles Schwab, Webull, Robinhood, whatever it is. Don't necessarily go with the crowd. Get good at doing the research. So that's your intellectual capital. And your experiential capital is the more times that you actually do these things, it becomes rote. It becomes easier to do these investigations. Take notes. Have a cheat sheet set for yourself so that you can go through these investigations in a very stepwise fashion and not leave anything left unchecked. So, it's a bonus if you have entrepreneurial skills. So if you decide you want to start a small business, and it could be a YouTube channel, could be a vlog, it could be, any darn thing, a small business that you want to do, or if you have big business ideas, that's a really big bonus. Side hustles are fine. So there's things that you can do to make extra money to help with paying down debt and getting your investment portfolio up to speed. When you go shopping, whether it's groceries or supplies or Christmas, whatever it is, make a list. Know what it is that you're going to go for, so that you don't pick up things that you don't need. You're not going to go crazy trying to get additional things and you've spent too much. Understand the difference between degenerative, generative, and regenerative investments. And that's the same as the next line there, assets and liabilities. You need to know these things. So a degenerative investment, I use this analogy all the time, is you buy a car, especially a brand new car. It immediately depreciates when you drive it off the lot. A generative investment is something like a garden. So you only put in so much time, energy, and money into it, and you get rewards back. Sometimes that's a regenerative investment if there's fruit trees there, or the perennial crops that come back each year. So a degenerative investment, that could be a home, one that you really didn't research in the neighborhood that it's in, the condition of the home, how much repairs need to be taken care of, what are the school taxes, county taxes, insurance values, how much it's going to cost you to heat it or cool the place, if you're going to be able, if it's under the restrictions of a homeowners association. So a home could actually be a degenerative investment. If it's well maintained and you're really careful, it could be a generative investment. It could be as far as a good investment as far as your quality of life a home can be, but it's seldom a regenerative investment. In other words, you're making money unless you just happen to really know real estate really well, and you have real flipping houses or investing in houses is be one of those skills that you develop so that you can have it. I don't have those skills. I don't want to deal with tenants and all that. But rental property could be generative, regenerative, or degenerative, depending on, how you set it up. Could you lose your shirt? Yes, you could. Could it be a way of having steady income year after year after year? Yes. So I'd say study investing. Again, you learn how to manage your money, understand money very, very well, because money is a means to get financial independence. Become a long-term investor. It's really enticing when you see other things buy low, sell high, and all. Really do your homework. Look at the stocks and bonds that you want to invest in, and then I would say, unless something changes with the company, you're owning a piece of the company. You're owning part of the company. And I would say stay with it if you've done your research with them, whether it's dividends or a growth fund. So steps to become a millionaire. At 20 years old, if you started by saving $95 a month, or at 25 years old, you started at $185 a month, and you get about a 10% return on investment, 9 to 10% return on investment, that could build in to be $1 million. So it could start off so dirt cheap if you start real early at 20 years old. It's amazing how quickly that can grow. If at 21 years old you came into some money, you had an inheritance, or you sold a game that you coded and all, and you had almost $12,000 in your investment account, at 10% return on investment, that could be $1 million by the time you turn 65. At 25, you'd have to double that. It's about $23,000 in the account. Now, that isn't making any more contributions, and I would say definitely continue at least making 95, and then try to build it up, because having a really nice nest egg there can really change your life a lot. But starting early, the reason I'm showing this slide, it really makes a difference if you start real early. So when we get into our 30s, then we get to $270 a month at 9% return on investment is what you need to achieve $1 million when you're 65. At 35, it doubles again, just about, and we're at $452 a month with a 9% return on investment. So it's amazing how much how much of a difference it makes when you start real young. At 30 years old, you need to have just under $44,000 in there at 9%, and you don't have to add any more to it in order to reach $1 million. At 35, you need to have about $79,000 in your account at 9% return on investment. When you're 40, you need to contribute $780 a month. When you're 45, $1,350 a month. At 40 years old, you need about $136,000, $137,000 with an 8% return on investment, and you don't have to invest more at that point. So if you had some big windfall for whatever reason, an inheritance, you sold something big, whatever it may be, if you could dump that money into your investment account as early as possible and let it experience the exponential growth, you could be pleasantly surprised. Would I recommend stopping your monthly investments into it? No, I'd always do automatic. And one of the things I should have said earlier is one of the smart things that people do, if you're working for somebody and they do an employer match for contributing to your 401k or your IRA, at least take as much as what the employer will match. I would say max out what you can, because what you don't see per paycheck, you get to live within those means. Not always, but I think you can for the most part. At 50 years old, you got to put almost $2,500 in a month. At 55 years old, you got to put like $5,000 in each month in order to reach $1,000,000. At 50 years old, you need about 351,000 in order to not add any more to it, in order for it to get up to $1,000,000 in value by the time you're 65. At 55, 522,000 or 523,000. So it really does. It's an eye opener seeing how this is. At 60 years old, you should have saved at least 741,000, and with a 6% return on investment by 65, you could achieve $1,000,000. So those are some quick looks at those. So in your 20s, I say start by building your knowledge, your intellectual capital. That is so important. Read is certainly. There's lots of research online that's available nowadays for free. Fight the emotional and behavioral challenges associated with peers and the desire to be like everyone else and all. Fight those emotional challenges and try to imagine, do everything you can to sync the things that I just talked about, the power of investing early and understanding exponential growth. Those are two very compounded interest rates. Spend less money than what you make. Understand how dangerous debt is. Pay yourself first. Like I talked about before, make sure your money comes out right off the bat automatically and goes right into your investment accounts. Then pay your bills. And then what's left over, you can either decide, hey, I'm going to go whole hog in this month and get more in there. Or you can break down. You can get yourself the new shoes, the new phone, or whatever it may be. But, when you think about it, whatever it is, like let's say it's an iPhone. Geez, there was one over $1,000 recently. And some people like to get them every year or every 2 years. If you just stopped doing that and you just took that $1,000 this year and put it in when you're 20 years old and put that in there, look how far you would be for compounded interest growth on that. You're getting so close to meeting your needs by not getting the Xbox, not getting that. Yes, you do want to enjoy your life. So in your 20, make sure you have health and property insurance. So it may be if you own a home at that time, make sure you have homeowners insurance. You have an apartment, make sure you have renter's insurance and all. Make sure that your deductibles are covered. So in your emergency fund, you want to make sure you have enough to cover your deductibles in case there is a break-in or a fire or something like that. You want to have an emergency fund when you're in your 20s, probably at least 3 to 6 months. That would be good. And that could be in a very liquid cash savings account. Understand the power of compounded interest rate. And I made a video about that a few weeks ago. One of the things I'd say is choose an investment fund. I know right now Robinhood is really hot. Webull seems to be pretty hot. There's a whole bunch. I chose Fidelity. I'm not affiliated with them. I really like Fidelity. They were one of the first ones to go commission free. There's almost no charges for anything I do now with Fidelity. And I think they have a checking account as well. I think they have a health savings account as well. So just do the research in which investment company you want to work with. Since you're still young, consider, and if you're not making the big bucks yet, consider your investments. So these are not tax deferred, go into your Roth IRA, but at retirement it comes out tax free. Keep it simple. Use something like TurboTax or some other free service or any of the tax cut services. You can go online and do it at the IRS site for pretty much free at this point. Most people in their 20s, their tax situation is pretty, it's not overly complex. When you're in your 30s, you may have a partner, children, you may be starting to improve your lifestyle. You probably have less free time than you had before. The peer pressure from family and friends and trying to keep up with the Joneses, the neighbors, there's more pressure on you at that point to conform to society standards. But as we talked about in the very beginning of this video, society standards could leave you in the poorhouse when you're 65. Most people, most homes are purchased by the first time purchase is when they're in the 30s. So think about all of these things. Um, you know, uh, there's more of a discretionary fund for people in their 30s than in their 20s. But I think it's time to get serious about your thinking about your retirement. If you haven't started your retirement account by your 30s, it's time to get started. Term life insurance, if you got family members, somebody that needs to be taken care of after you're gone, disability insurance, and certainly umbrella insurance in case there's an incident. Uh, you know, uh, you know, in the medical profession, you find out about people targeting you, driving their car into your porch or into a tree on your property, getting injured and suing you, and all. So the umbrella insurance really pays off for a whole variety of bizarre things besides your car insurance or their car insurance, your homeowner's insurance, and all. The umbrella insurance covers, uh, I'd say, voids in the other insurances. Building your emergency fund is essential at this point because you have other people, your children, your wife, or whatever it is. There's usually more responsibilities, more payments to go on out. So having a larger emergency fund is important. Increase your investments to 20 to 25% of your gross pay, if at all possible. Higher tax bracket. If you're not in a higher tax bracket, consider the Roth plan. If you're a high wage earner, go into a traditional 401k or IRA. Um, Consider using a tax advisor at this stage if you've been contributing since your 20s and you're building a nest egg. You want to have information, accurate information about how to plan for your taxes, so that you're not paying Uncle Sam any more than you need to. I think keep your beneficiaries at this point. If you've got loved ones now, you may be switching over from your parents to your or from your siblings to your wife, or whatever it may be. So keep on top of your beneficiaries. Your last will and testament, power of attorney, advanced medical directive, and revocable living trust are all really important things to do by the time you're in the 30s. When you're in your 40s, often the children are grown or in college. Work and career can be boring. Marriage can be challenging. You can feel like you can feel like you're missing out on some things and all. So there's challenges that you're going to meet in each cohort, in each decade. There's things that you're going to go through. Know this is all normal. Remember, try not to go beyond your means, like bigger houses, fancier cars, fancier clothes, fancier dining out and so on, showing off and all. Know your goals, know your why. Get a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan at this time, a new ones. It's good to keep revisiting your goals and objectives and keep challenging yourself along the way, or remind yourself you need to accomplish this other task. Self-care. So one of my big ethics is self-care. So health management, meeting your needs, your family's needs. It's really serious now because you're in your 40s. Before you know it, you're going to be in your 60s. And it's time to really take care of yourself. So if you got some bad habits, try and curb those bad habits and take better care of yourself. Term life insurance is a must at this point to take care of your loved ones. It's important to do self-assessments with your investments. If you don't feel comfortable doing understanding your investment portfolio, you need to have a financial advisor. By the time you're in your 40s, you usually have a significant amount of money in there, and you want to make sure you're on track. You paid off your debt. If not, you need to be knocking that debt down rapidly so you can get back to your investments as well. And with the investments, now there aren't as many charges for doing trades and all, but doing trades frequently. And I can always make a video about choosing a financial advisor as well. But there are some financial advisors that are making money on you every single time they make the trades, and it isn't helping you. Going long term, I think, is the best in most circumstances. Don't take chances. Use a financial advisor. If you're unsure about your investments, You need to get an accountant if you don't know your tax situation real well and how to take advantage of all of the circumstances involving your finances. Uh, you know which is best for you at this point. Is investing in a traditional IRA or the Roth better? Remember, Roth, so the traditional IRA or 401k is tax deferred. That lowers your taxable income each year that you're going to pay Uncle Sam. The Roth IRA, well, that's tax free. That's paid into it with already taxed money, but when it comes out when you're retired, you're not paying any taxes on that. So when you're in the 40s, your children are often out of college, close to it by this point. Revisit your beneficiaries, revisit your will, your emergency fund. You may want to have your emergency fund grow larger. If you already have a really substantial portfolio, I don't think you have to necessarily expand your emergency fund at this point, because if you've really got a really good portfolio, over $1 million in there at this point, then you can rely on taking some of the money for a really big bad time right out of there. That goes against what most people say, but I think that is okay to do. Term life insurance, you need to still have this at this point. Disability insurance, umbrella insurance, and all. Uh, Okay, so when you're in your 50s, adult kids who are still depending on you, don't overextend yourself. Certainly, if you have children with special needs, adult children with special needs, or there's disabilities, whatever it may be, certainly own your responsibility there. However, if you got some kids that are, I call them bloodsuckers, still living at home and you're in your 50s, you need to really focus on your own financial plan, your financial independence, because your financial plan needs to get you through your, not just your 60s, 70s, but your 80s and 90s and potentially even longer. So those are all things to really consider. Hopefully you're debt free at this point. If not, get real creative, get serious, and talk with people who have been in your situation to help you get motivated and all. That's not too far from our situation that we've gone through, and I may tell my story sometime as well. Investigate long-term care insurance when you're in your 50s. If you're not healthy, if you're not extremely healthy, this is one of the times that the rates might not be so bad. So if you or your loved one has serious medical conditions that you anticipate that long-term care is going to be needed in the future, now's the time to start doing some preliminary investigation. Make certain your financial plan is in order. Once your investments have grown enough, diversification is going to provide a better safety net for you. If you want and you're at the point where you're not taking home tons of money, you can start considering rolling over some of your IRAs into Roth, or 401ks into your Roth 401ks. And it's time to check on your anticipated Social Security benefits. So hopefully, in many cases, people have been working for many years, and so going to the Social Security website and seeing what your expected Social Security benefit will be at 62, at 66, 67, and then at 70. And these are all going to be changing in the near future, I think, where the caps are going to be. And who knows if Social Security is going to be solvent in 10, 20 years. In the year you turn 50, you can start doing catch-up contributions. So a Roth, you can contribute more than $6,000. You can put $7,000 in the year you turn 50, no matter what time of the year it is. So if you're going to turn 50 and you're 49 years old and your birthday's in December, you can start playing catch-up on that year that you're turning 50 when you're still 49. Some employer plans allow you to take some withdrawals out when you turn 55. There's some you can do a rollover to your 401k into a traditional IRA. When you turn 59 and a half, you no longer have 10% penalties, with the exception, I mean, you can not have penalties, with some rare exceptions for your retirement plans as well. And I would say definitely in your 50s, revisit your last will and testament, your emergency fund. And this is a time, if you don't have a lot of money in your investment portfolio at 50, you may want to start expanding your emergency fund. And the reason is that you're going to want to become more conservative in your assessment, but there could be some real pullbacks in the market, corrections, a bear market potentially, or even a depression. So you could have prolonged periods, and then having a prolonged emergency fund can help you out. That's when you're in your 60s that you really have to get super serious about this. But if you don't anticipate you're going to have a huge financial nest egg, if your investment fund isn't great, start expanding your emergency fund a bit more when you're in your 50s, so that when you're in your 60s, you can withstand real big pullbacks in the market. Again, your advanced medical directive, revocable living trusts, and beneficiaries all need to be reassessed. All right, now you're in your 60s. Start planning on how you would start to take the retirement distributions. Know about your Social Security, when you're going to file for Social Security benefits, or at least have a better idea of that when you're in your 60s. Understand your pensions, all of your different investment accounts. Keeping track of them throughout this process is real important. Start making a plan at this point. Your tax rates will affect your Social Security benefits. So in other words, you're going to get your Social Security benefit, but are you going to get taxed because you're going to be having higher income until you reach full retirement age? Is it going higher? If the more money you make, the higher your contribution of the Medicare payments will be. So look at all of those things and make sure you're thinking about those in your 60s so you can plan accordingly. All right, so now you're in your 60s, your emergency fund, I think you have to have 18 to 36 months of an emergency fund. And I'm thinking about real big pullbacks in the market so that you can live off the emergency fund and not be pulling money out of your investment funds when there's not selling stocks when the market is real low, because then you're losing so much more of a chunk of your long, hard-earned investments. So you want to be able to rely on your emergency funds during those times when the market is pulling back pretty heavily. Leave the market alone, let it sit there until it recovers. The market will recover unless the United States ends. You may need to acquire long-term insurance at this point. We talked about that before, unless you're in excellent health. So I said back in the 20s and 30s and 40s, monitor your health. Self-care is so important. And do you still need life insurance? You may not need life insurance anymore. If you've got enough of a nest egg there, certainly when you're 65, your kids are taken care of, everything's set. Do you need a life insurance policy? Who's it going to go to? And you're spending all that extra money on life insurance. You still need to actively manage your investments even after you're retired. So this is 60s and 70s and 80s, because you need growth in your funds. You never want to just stay in bonds. You want to have some stocks. They're going to pay higher dividends and more growth, and therefore it will meet your needs if you should fortunately live into your hundreds and all. So, really, your funds need to be managed. So you don't want to, I would say I wouldn't want to look at somebody's funds who still had Kodak or IBM, who purchased those so many years ago. Either know what you're doing or get someone that you're comfortable with your financial planning, a financial advisor and a tax accountant as well. Revisit your last will and testament, advanced medical directive, your revocable living trust, beneficiaries, and account on all the accounts. You need to have some serious conversations about your long-term care wishes and all, and with those people that are your beneficiaries. And I should have said this back when you're 30s and you have children and all, or if it happens in your 20s or 40s. and you're filling out your last will and testament, you need to know who you want to have taking care of the children. You need to speak with those people and plan accordingly with them and make sure that they're okay with it. They really want to take on that responsibility. You don't want somebody shocked and saying, "Oh, by the way, you're going to be taking care of my kids. I've got terminal cancer." So you don't want to have a shocking thing happen with anyone. So I think that's about it. I'm sorry this was another long video, but I wanted to cover these topics. If you found this video of value, please give us a thumbs up. If you're purchasing things on Amazon, if you want to use our Amazon affiliate link down in the description below, that always helps us out an awful lot. We get a small little commission when you do that. If you're thinking about getting a Tesla solar roof or solar panels or a new Tesla car, please, you're welcome to use our referral code. You'll get 1,000 miles of supercharging, or I think you get $100 towards your solar panels or power wall. I don't remember the details of that, but if you use our referral link, you get a benefit and we get a benefit. We get 1,000 miles of supercharging as well. And by all means, folks, if you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them below. And take good care of yourselves, stay healthy, and start early and go hard at your investment portfolio. Bye-bye now.